Fossil Vision wonders why Sheffield people get called Dee Dars. Why does the city compare itself to Rome? And where on earth did the owls come from? These questions might seem unrelated, but they all start here, on the high ground where the River Sheaf rises, the river that gives Sheffield its name. So buckle up, we're going to explore these mysteries while driving around the hills at its source. We'll get to the Dee Dars eventually, but first Rome. Sheffield likes to compare itself with Rome. It claims to be built on 7 hills, just like the Eternal City. Hills usually sit between valleys, or maybe valleys sit between hills. Either way, rivers run in valleys. And on this route west of Sheffield is where the rivers begin. We've already looked at the Don, the Loxley and the Rivlin, and now, finally, the river it's named after, the River Sheaf. That just makes 4. And if valleys sit between hills, there can only be 5 hills, and not 7. But what's this? Believe it or not, this is the start of Porter Brook. The Porter Brook isn't a river, it's a brook. But does it matter? It extends all the way to the city centre. I traced it down to Sheffield's Midland Railway Station, where it feeds into the River Sheaf. It was then that I started to realise this Hill 5 video might really be Hills 5 and 6 combined. And if so, we're now on Hill number 5, and the true sources of the Sheaf are still ahead. So when we find them, we'll have found Hill number 6. But what about Hill 7? You've got to have 7 hills if you're claiming to be like Rome. This is Ringinglow, a handful of houses and a pub. We can probably say Ringinglow sits on Hill 5, now that we've crossed the Porter Brook. For Peak District fans, a right turn here puts you in the National Park within 500 feet. Now on Sheep Hill Road we catch a glimpse of Hill 6. It's subtle, just a dip in the road carrying us over Limb Brook, a small tributary joining the Sheaf, barely a third of a mile from its start, between Dore and Totley. If Sheffield claims, like Rome, to be built on 7 hills, and we've just found a 6th, maybe the 7th was encouraged into existence. Rounded up, shall we say. Dore and Totley conjure images of neat lawns and quiet affluence. This is the part of Sheffield where a semi-detached house might cost £500,000. And here, perhaps, is a clue to the Dee Dar. I once imagined Sheffielders mispronouncing thee and thou, words still heard clearly in Barnsley, Rotherham and even Chesterfield. So if dee and da really come from thee and thou, how come Sheffielders can't manage the th sound? I did a little digging. In the 19th century, Italian immigrants arrived, settling in West Bar, once known as Little Italy. Could their accent have softened thee and thou into dee and da? It was a neat theory, perhaps too neat. We're crossing Redcar Brook, another Sheaf tributary. It joins Blacker Dyke ahead, forming Old Hay Brook, which then meets Totley Brook, and at Abbeydale Road South, the River Sheaf officially begins. We're turning onto the A625, driving around Totley Moor, a Peak District hill where both Blacker Dyke and Totley Brook rise. But maybe Dee Dar isn't linguistic at all. Maybe Daw and Totley give the real clue. Say those names, you picture neat lawns, large houses, a certain air. Google simply says Dee Dar is a colloquial nickname for Sheffielders. It doesn't mention Italians, neither does it mention the Irish, which leaves another possibility. Not Dee Dar, but La Dee Dar, as in posh. Here on the A625 to the left, Blacker Dyke rises on the northern edge of Totley Moor. As we round onto Stony Ridge Road, we'll keep tight to the moor's perimeter until reaching Owler Bar. On Stony Ridge Road, Totley Moor looms to our left. Though still in South Yorkshire, the moor itself lies in Derbyshire. The road marks the county boundary. Now, the Owls. Sheffield Wednesday began as a cricket team. In Victorian times, clubs played cricket in summer, football in winter. One team played every Wednesday, the city's half-day closing, as shopkeepers finished work early. That team became Sheffield Wednesday. At Bramall Lane, cricket dominated summer, football arrived later to fill the winter. That team became Sheffield United. These clubs didn't grow from mining villages or factory teams. One came from shopkeepers with Wednesday afternoons free, the other from a cricket ground seeking winter sport. Perhaps that gave Sheffield a slightly different sporting character. Neighbours may have seen something a little refined, a bit organised, a bit self-important. La Dee Dar, as they sometimes say. Whether that ties to Dee Dar, it's impossible to prove. But Sheffield has always done things differently. Even its football clubs began differently. Now, most people would have it that the River Sheaf's true source is Totley Brook and not Blacker Dyke, and if that's so, then the River Sheaf rises in Derbyshire, whereas if it was the Blacker Dyke, it would rise in South Yorkshire, in the same county as Sheffield. This time of year the moor is covered in patches of bracken, which makes this contrasting brown between the dead grasses of this windswept moor. Over to our right, the hills descend towards Baslow. and you can follow that route as well as the breathtaking views on a detour around Kerber by watching my Lodgemoor to Kerber and Kerber to Chatsworth Estate videos. But the river in the valley down there is the River Derwent, which flows through Derby, so is nothing to do with Sheffield. If you enjoy videos which explore roads, lanes and infrastructure in South Yorkshire, Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire and this part of the North Midlands, then please subscribe and give this video a like. So, the Owls. Sheffield Wednesday moved to Owlerton in northern Sheffield, but Owlerton wasn't named for birds. It comes from the alder tree, owler in Old English, pronounced owler. These water-loving trees thrived along rivers used for bridge foundations, sluice gates and timber for industry. Owlerton and its alders shaped the landscape long before football arrived. Even the toll gate at Owler Bar, the old Peacock Inn, may have had an alder trunk laid across the road to bar the way. As we reach Owler Bar, the story comes full circle. The city's rivers, trees, football and nicknames all laid together, quietly shaping Sheffield's identity. Rome in ambition, Dee Dars in dialect, Owls in identity. Sheffield is many things at once, and it's still telling its story if you know where to look.